Picture two people, same city, same age, same job title at the same company. They started on the same day, they went through the same training, and they take home virtually the same paycheck every 2 weeks. 5 years later, one of them has a fully funded emergency account, no credit card debt, money going automatically into investments every month, and a quiet, settled feeling about money that most people have never experienced. The other one is still checking their bank balance before every grocery run, still moving money around at the end of the month trying to make it stretch, still one unexpected bill away from real financial stress. The difference between them is not income, it is not discipline, it is not financial talent. It is a system. One person has one. The other is operating without one. And that single distinction produces two completely different financial lives on identical incomes. If you are living paycheck to paycheck right now, what I am about to show you is not a lecture about spending less and saving more. That advice has existed for decades, and it has not fixed this for most people, because it misidentifies the problem. What I am going to show you is the exact four-step system that addresses the actual structural causes of the paycheck cycle, and the reason it works when everything else you have tried has not. Now look at this. Marcus and Priya are both 31. They work at the same marketing agency in the same city, and they both earn $62,000 a year after tax deductions. They were hired the same month, they sit 2 desks apart, and they eat lunch together twice a week. Priya just came back from a weekend trip she booked 6 months ago. She saved $150 a month in a dedicated travel account she set up after watching a video like this one 3 years earlier. She did not stress about the cost because the money was already there. She also got hit with a $900 car repair bill the week before she left, which came entirely out of her $2,000 emergency buffer. She was annoyed but not panicked. Her rent was still covered. Her November savings transfer still went through automatically. Marcus, meanwhile, has been thinking about a weekend trip for 2 years. He has the money in theory. His salary is identical to Priya's. But when he checks his account every few days, which he does the way most people check the weather, he never quite sees the number that would make him feel comfortable booking it. Last month, his car needed $900 in repairs too. He put it on a credit card he is already carrying a balance on. That balance is now $3,200 and climbing. His minimum payment went up. His rent is covered, but barely. They earn the same amount. Their rent is within $50 of each other. They drink the same coffee. What separates them financially is not visible in any single decision. It is the architecture of the system each one is operating inside. This story is not extraordinary. A version of it is playing out in every workplace, every apartment building, and every family in the world. Two people in objectively similar circumstances, producing radically different financial outcomes because of the invisible system operating underneath their daily decisions. And here is what makes this either genuinely hopeful or genuinely frustrating, depending on where you are right now. Priya did not start where she is. 3 years ago, she was Marcus. She was carrying a credit card balance, she was checking her account before spending anything, and she was telling herself that things would improve when she got a raise. Then she got a raise. And 6 months later, she was still checking her account before every purchase, because the raise had quietly disappeared into a slightly nicer apartment and slightly more expensive habits. What changed for her was not income. It was understanding the 3 structural reasons the cycle exists in the first place. The paycheck-to-paycheck cycle is not a personality flaw. It is not evidence of poor character or a lack of willpower. It is the entirely predictable output of 3 structural forces that most people are never taught about, and that operate automatically in the background of every financial decision you make. The first force is called income expansion. When your income grows, your spending grows to match it almost immediately and almost automatically. Economists have studied this for decades. Every time a person receives a meaningful income increase, their baseline of what feels normal to spend adjusts upward within a few months. You get a raise. The apartment gets a little nicer. The car payment gets a little bigger. The dinners out become a little more frequent. The subscriptions quietly multiply. Within 6 months, the raise is completely absorbed and the financial pressure feels exactly as tight as it did before. The insidious part of income expansion is that none of these individual decisions feel reckless. Each one seems entirely reasonable. A slightly better apartment, one more streaming service, a coffee machine that actually works. These are not extravagances. But the aggregate effect is that every income increase gets consumed before it can be converted into financial stability. You earn more, you spend more, you feel the same. The cycle continues regardless of how much income grows. The second force is operating without a financial buffer. When you have nothing saved, every unexpected expense is not just an inconvenience. It is a crisis with a ripple effect that can last for months. A car repair that costs $900 does not just cost $900 when there is no buffer. It costs $900 plus the interest on the credit card it goes on, plus the stress of carrying that balance, plus the disruption to the following month when the minimum payment increases. A single event can set you back 3 or 4 months because of the cascade it creates. More than that, operating without a buffer forces you into a permanently reactive financial posture. You cannot make thoughtful, long-term financial decisions when you are constantly managing short-term crises. Every bit of mental energy that should go toward building wealth gets consumed by putting out fires. The buffer is not a luxury. It is the foundation that makes everything else possible. The third force is the wrong financial order. Most people pay their bills, cover their daily expenses, try to live their life with whatever is left, and then at the end of the month attempt to save whatever has survived. This is the financial order that most people were raised with, and it virtually guarantees that savings never happens at any meaningful level, because life always expands to fill the available financial space. Spending will find a way to consume whatever margin exists if it is allowed to go first. Savings placed at the end of the process will always lose to life. Always. Not sometimes, not most months, but structurally and reliably, every month, as long as the order remains the same. Flipping that order, making savings the first transaction rather than the last hope, is the single change that makes everything else in this system work. Now you understand the 3 forces driving the cycle. Before I give you the system to break it, I need to tell you about the 3 traps that will try to stop you, even after you understand everything I just explained. Because most people who learn about the paycheck cycle and decide to fix it, walk directly into one of these, conclude that they simply cannot manage money, and give up before the system has any chance to work. The first trap is all-or-nothing thinking. You sit down, probably on a Sunday, and you build a detailed budget. You account for everything. You feel genuinely motivated in a way that feels different from all the previous times. 2 weeks later, one unplanned dinner out, one social event you did not budget for, one moment of weakness in a supermarket, and the budget is broken. And the thought arrives immediately and automatically. I have already failed this month. I will start again in January. January has never saved anyone's finances. And the person who abandoned the budget on week 2 did not fail at managing money. They fell into the most common trap in personal finance, treating a budget like a diet, something you are either following perfectly or have abandoned entirely. A budget is not a perfect plan. It is a directional guide. Spending more than you planned on one Thursday does not invalidate the entire month. The direction matters far more than the perfection. One off-budget meal is not a failure. Quitting because of it is. The second trap is trying to fix everything at once. The moment most people understand their financial situation fully, they want to fix all of it simultaneously. Pay off the credit card. Build the emergency fund. Start investing. Cut 5 categories of spending. Learn about index funds. And open a retirement account. All in the same week. The impulse is completely understandable. Everything feels urgent when you see the full picture clearly for the first time. But the mental load of managing that many simultaneous changes is overwhelming for almost everyone. 2 or 3 weeks in, the cognitive weight of tracking everything becomes exhausting. One thing slips, which causes another to slip, and the entire project collapses. This is not a character flaw. It is a predictable response to trying to optimize before stabilizing. There is a correct sequence to fixing your finances, and deviating from that sequence does not save time. It costs it. The system I am about to give you is that sequence. It asks you to do one thing at a time, in the right order, and nothing else. The third trap is the most common and the most quietly destructive of all, saving whatever is left. End of the month. The bills are paid. Life has happened. You open your banking app and look at what is left to save. There is almost never anything meaningful left. And the conclusion most people draw from this is that they simply do not earn enough to save. But that conclusion is wrong. What is actually happening is that savings placed at the end of the financial process will always lose to life. Exactly as I described in the third structural cause a few minutes ago. The trap is repeating this process month after month and expecting a different outcome. The switch that breaks this trap is not earning more. It is changing when the savings transaction happens. The moment that switch is made, everything changes. We will get to exactly how in step 3. Here is the system. 4 steps, in a specific sequence, for a specific reason. Do not rearrange them. The order is not arbitrary. Step 1. Build the $1,000 emergency buffer. Before you pay anything extra on any debt. Before you put a single dollar into an investment. Before you do anything else in this system, you build a $1,000 emergency buffer and you do it first. This is non-negotiable and the sequence matters. Why $1,000 specifically? Because $1,000 covers approximately 80% of the financial emergencies that actually derail ordinary people. Not catastrophic events. Not medical crises. The everyday unexpected expenses that are actually the most financially destructive because they happen most frequently. The car that breaks down. The phone screen that shatters. The dental bill that was not on the calendar. $1,000 absorbs those hits before they can cascade into debt, stress, and setbacks that last for months. This is not a full emergency fund. A full emergency fund, which we will cover in a later video, is 3 to 6 months of living expenses. That is the long-term target. But $1,000 is the immediate target because it creates the buffer that changes the nature of unexpected expenses from crises into inconveniences. That psychological shift alone is worth more than most people realize. How quickly can you get to $1,000? If you redirect $250 a month, you are there in 4 months. If you sell 5 things sitting in your home on Facebook Marketplace this weekend, cancel 2 subscriptions you genuinely do not use, and pick up 1 extra shift or 1 freelance project, you could potentially be there in 6 to 8 weeks. The speed is less important than the destination. What matters is that this money lives in a separate account at a different bank from your daily checking, that it does not appear in your regular banking app where it might be spent accidentally, and that it is labeled emergency buffer, so its purpose is never ambiguous. Open a free high-yield savings account, separate from your current bank. Name it. Fund it. Nothing else in this system starts until this account exists, with a balance growing toward $1,000. Danielle is 28. She works in healthcare administration in Phoenix and earns $55,000 a year. She is careful with money by most measures. She cooks at home more than she eats out. She shops sales. She has never bought anything on a credit card she did not think she could pay back. In March, her car broke down on the way to work. The repair bill was $1,100. She did not have $1,100 in savings. She put it on a credit card with a 22% interest rate and told herself she would pay it off quickly. She did not pay it off quickly. Life happened. 6 months later, the balance had grown to $1,400 with interest, and she was making minimum payments. Her minimum payment was $42 a month. At that rate, paying only the minimum, she would not clear that debt for 3 years and would pay over $500 in interest on a $1,100 car repair. Here is the number that matters. If Danielle had a $1,000 emergency buffer, this exact same car repair would have cost her $1,100 total. Full stop. Instead, it cost her $1,600 plus 3 years of monthly stress. The $1,000 buffer she did not have cost her $500 she will never get back. The $1,000 buffer is not a savings goal. It is a financial insurance policy, and it pays for itself the first time you need it. Step 2. Run a zero-based budget for 30 days. A zero-based budget is a budget in which every dollar you earn gets a specific job before the month starts. Income minus all your expenses and savings equals 0. Not because you spend everything, but because every dollar has a deliberate destination rather than ending up somewhere by accident. The mechanics are simple. Write down your monthly take-home income, then list every expense you can identify. Rent or mortgage, utilities, groceries, transport, subscriptions, phone, entertainment, minimum debt payments, and your buffer savings from step 1. Subtract the total from your income. If the result is not 0, you either have expenses you have not yet identified or you have money without a job. Find it. Assign it. The goal of your first 30 days is not perfection. You will miss categories. You will forget subscriptions. You will underestimate grocery spending. None of that is failure. The goal of the first 30-day run is data. For the first time, possibly ever, you are going to see the complete and honest picture of where your money actually goes every month. Not where you think it goes, not where you intend it to go, where it actually goes. Most people doing this exercise for the first time discover between $200 and $400 in spending they cannot specifically account for when asked about it afterward. Not because they are reckless, but because small, frequent, unconsidered purchases accumulate in ways that are invisible until you actually document them. That money, the money you have been spending without fully noticing it, is your leverage. It is what funds Step 4. For the tool, ENAB, which stands for You Need a Budget, is the gold standard for zero-based budgeting and the most effective digital system available for this specific approach. Every dollar is simpler and has a free version that works well for people just starting out. A spreadsheet works fine too if you prefer to build your own. What matters is not the tool. What matters is that you see the complete picture in one place, every month, without exception. Step 3. Pay yourself first and automate the transfer. This is the single most important behavioral change in personal finance. And the reason most people understand it but never implement it is that they try to do it manually, which means they try to do it by remembering, which means life always finds a reason why this particular month is not quite the right time. Here is what automating it actually means. You log into your bank account and you set up a recurring automatic transfer for a fixed amount on the same day your paycheck clears. Not the day after. Not when you check your balance and decide if there is room. The day the money arrives. You set this up once and it runs every pay period without any further decision from you. How much do you automate? This question causes more paralysis than almost any other in personal finance, and the answer is both simpler and less important than most people think. Start with whatever feels genuinely manageable without causing real financial hardship. If you can automate $200 per paycheck without it affecting your ability to cover your actual expenses, do $200. If $50 is what feels right for where you are right now, start with $50. The amount is almost irrelevant in the early stages. What matters is that the transfer happens automatically before your brain has any chance to redirect that money. Paying yourself first rewires your relationship with money at a behavioral level. When savings leave your account before you can see them in your spending balance, you adapt to living on what remains. The adjustment usually takes 2 or 3 months and is mildly uncomfortable at the start. But after those months, the automated amount feels like a bill you pay, one of many, rather than a sacrifice you make. That cognitive shift is the foundation of every subsequent financial improvement. Step 4. Find $200 in your budget and redirect it with one job. Go back to the 30 days of budget data you collected in Step 2. Look for $200 per month in spending that is not giving you value proportional to what it costs. This is different for everyone. It might be subscription services you genuinely forgot you were paying for. It might be the frequency of food delivery versus cooking at home. It might be a gym membership used twice last month. You are looking for spending that, if it disappeared tomorrow, you would not meaningfully miss. $200 is the target because it is the number that is achievable in almost every budget without requiring anyone to make their life feel like punishment. And it is substantial enough to create real momentum when redirected consistently toward a specific goal. That $200 has exactly one job. It accelerates the growth of your emergency buffer until it reaches $1,000. After that milestone is reached, the $200 shifts to your highest interest debt. When the debt is cleared, it begins building your full 3 to 6 month emergency fund. It has one job at a time. That discipline is the point. The temptation in Step 4 is to split it, to use some for the buffer, some for debt, some for investments, some for a long-delayed purchase. That impulse, however reasonable it feels, dilutes the momentum so much that none of the goals make meaningful progress. One job, executed completely, then the next job. That is how this system works. Now this is the piece nobody talks about. I told you at the start that there was a final piece that most personal finance videos skip entirely, and that it is the real reason most people who try a new system fail within 90 days, even when the system itself is sound. Here it is. The 4 steps are solid. The sequence is correct. But what silently undermines them for most people is not a flaw in the framework. It is the environment they return to the moment this video ends. Think about what the average person's information environment looks like. A social media feed calibrated by algorithms to show content that generates engagement, which means content that triggers spending impulses, comparison, and the sense that everyone else is living a more comfortable and abundant life. Group chats where the conversations are about plans, restaurants, trips, things to buy. Colleagues who talk about their most recent purchase more than their most recent savings milestone. A cultural context in which spending is normal and visible and celebrated, while saving is quiet and invisible and largely unacknowledged. Operating a four-step financial system inside that environment is like trying to swim upstream. It is possible, people do it, but it requires a sustained level of conscious resistance that is genuinely exhausting to maintain indefinitely. And the research on financial behavior is clear on this point. The financial habits of the people in your social environment are among the strongest predictors of your own financial habits. Not your income, not your intelligence, not your discipline, the financial norms of the environment you spend your time inside. The people who permanently break the paycheck cycle almost always do one thing that finance videos never quite talk about directly. They change what normal looks like to them. Not their friends necessarily, not their social life, not everything at once, but the content they consume, the communities they participate in, the ideas they expose themselves to regularly. They create a parallel information environment in which building wealth, automating savings, paying off debt, and thinking long-term are the default conversations rather than the exceptions. This is not abstract or philosophical advice. It has direct behavioral consequences. When your information environment normalizes financial progress, the habits in this system stop feeling like sacrifices and start feeling like ordinary things that people like you do. That shift, from financial discipline feeling like swimming upstream to feeling like going with the current, is what separates the people who execute a system for 6 months from the people who execute it for 6 years. James is 33. He spent most of his 20s in the exact cycle described in this video. He earned a decent salary as a project manager in Seattle and had essentially nothing to show for it by the time he turned 31. No savings, a $4,200 credit card balance, and a level of background financial anxiety that had become so constant he had stopped noticing it the way you stop noticing the noise of traffic outside your window. He found a video like this one and decided, genuinely this time, to follow the sequence exactly. Step 1. He opened a separate savings account and named it Buffer. He automated a $100 transfer every 2 weeks to it. 4 months later, the buffer hit $1,000 for the first time in his adult life. He remembers the exact day he checked and saw the balance cross that number. He described it later as the first time in years that he felt like his finances were something happening with him rather than to him. Step 2. The 30-day budget revealed $340 a month he could not fully account for. Subscriptions he forgot about, food delivery that had become a habit rather than a convenience, a gym he had not visited in 3 months. He redirected $200 of that immediately to his credit card. Step 3. He moved the $100 buffer automation to $150 once the buffer was funded, pointing it at the credit card debt alongside the redirected $200. 18 months after starting, the credit card balance was gone. The buffer was intact. He had not had a financial emergency in that period, but 2 months before the debt cleared, his laptop broke. It cost $800 to replace. It came out of the buffer. He rebuilt the buffer over the following 3 months. The laptop cost him $800 and nothing else. Not interest. Not stress. Not a setback to anything else he was building. $800 and then he moved on. He is now building toward a full 3-month emergency fund and putting $300 a month into an index fund for the first time in his life. His income did not change. The system did. Now, here is everything we covered today. Living paycheck to paycheck is not an income problem, and it is not a character problem. It is a system problem produced by 3 structural forces. Income expansion that absorbs every raise before it can improve your financial position, the absence of a buffer that turns every unexpected expense into a months-long setback, and a financial order that places savings last when it needs to come first. The 3 traps that will try to derail you even after you understand this. All-or-nothing thinking that treats a single budgeting mistake as a total failure. The impulse to fix everything simultaneously before you have stabilized anything. and the habit of saving whatever is left over after life has taken its share. The 4-step system in the correct sequence: build a $1,000 emergency buffer before anything else, run a zero-based budget for 30 days to get your first honest picture of where your money actually goes, automate savings on the day your paycheck arrives so the decision is made once rather than every month, and find $200 in your budget to redirect with one specific job at a time. And the piece that makes all of it permanent: change your information environment so that building wealth starts to feel normal rather than exceptional. Systems work when they are supported by the world you live in. Deliberately reshape that world. The next video on this channel covers the money rules that most people who always seem to have money are quietly following. Rules that have nothing to do with earning more, and everything to do with how they relate to what they already have. It is probably the most counterintuitive thing on this channel, and it has been the most useful for the people who have found it. It is already up. You will find it right after this one ends. Subscribe to Capital Notes. A new video goes up every week, and every one of them is part of the same sequence, building one layer of financial understanding on top of the last. No random tips. No recycled generic advice. Just a connected system for building the kind of financial life that does not require you to check your balance before you can say yes to something. See you in the next one.